friends. This is Zoe. I am your somatic therapist who, in between sessions, is somehow making a podcast, trying to get all of these beautiful people that I've met in life to also meet you, to share with you how they have served and transcended life's tribulations and how they have found humor and resilience in their own version of rising above. I know that in recent times it has been challenging, especially in the last few months, in both the macro and also from what I know, your other spheres, your more intimate spheres of life, whether it's the political, whether it is about your gender, whether it is about your identity that might be BIPOC and intersectional. There has been some immense challenges to our sanity collectively. So today I bring you someone who is medicinal balm as a human being and a literal kind of goddess, because she has lived 72 years on this earth, navigating the patriarchy of growing up in India, in Indian society, where her love of a style of music called Thumri was rejected as one that respectable ladies could practice or even be professionals in. But Vidya Rao, our beautiful, beautiful friend, singer, feminist thinker, and scholar, managed to go against the tide and make it her own. And so she'll share with us her story of how she became an accomplished and acclaimed Thumri singer. She will share with us in her unintentional ASMR tone of voice how she calms herself and motivates herself despite high-functioning depression. As well, she will share with us about how she rose above challenges, preventing her to have the courage to self-express, to get on stage, to perform, to share with the world from a place of love and passion. I hope that Vidya will be magical for you, just as she is for me. I have been so fortunate to know her personally, and so I bring you the ripples of presence and calm that is Vidya Rao. Without further ado, let's dive in. Hey folks, welcome to We All Got Problems, and this episode of We All Got Problems is extra special because I am bringing you a literal goddess, my most beautiful friend, Vidya Rao. Literally, she has a beautiful voice, a beautiful heart. She's an advocate for women. She is a well-known singer of the classical style called Thumri. She'll tell you a lot more about that. And she is somebody that I have been fortunate enough to get to meet as a friend, to see her kind of more personal side, sharing her thoughts and writings about life and experiences. But basically, I just want to say, what a glorious moment to be with beautiful, beautiful Vidya Rao, all the way from India. And hi, Vidya. Can you tell us a little bit about where you are right now and how you are today.
Okay, hello, Zoe and friends. I'm in Hyderabad, which is in the center of India. I've only moved here a little over 2 years ago. I moved from Delhi, where I lived for many, many years, and only left Delhi because of the terrible pollution, which was wrecking my throat and my lungs and so my voice.
Thanks so much for sharing that. Could tell us a little bit about your professional experience and who you are as an artist? Because I think voice is something really integral to who you are and how you help people.
Well, when you say voice, we always mean more than one thing. One is the physical voice, the voice we use to speak or sing, but it's also, and then that may be of a particular kind, it may have, but we also use that word like a metaphor for being present in the world and to be able to say what we need to say. To be able to express ourselves without fear and also without feeling that we need to shout about things, to be just able to put one's voice out into the world. I think both these kinds of voices are necessary for probably everyone, but certainly for a singer.
Yeah. So, Vidya, I know you don't like to blow your own horn, but, I think the rest of the world, like India knows you, and I think parts of Europe know you. You have been through different grants and residencies as an artist, as a singer, as a performer and writer. I know you don't like to blow your own horn, but I need you to a little bit. Do you mind sharing with our listeners what your experience has been growing into becoming a respected writer and singer and performer?
Okay, well, I don't think I ever started out by thinking that I'm going to be a writer or a singer. It was just something I wanted to do. I mean, I wanted to sing, I wanted to learn music, and I wanted to learn this kind of music, Thumri, and we'll come to that. And also, I wanted very much also to write about the music. I think it took me some time, to grow into exactly what it was that I wanted to write about. I mean, the music had to grow, my experiences in learning music and, yes, performing and also researching it. All these experiences had to come together. I think we spoke earlier about voice. This is what you want to say, both through music and through writing, to put this out into the world.
Were there, an inner longing or like an outer push that made you feel like I need to explore this?
Well, I loved music. I loved singing, especially. I mean, even now I really like singing and I like listening to more than instrumental music, whatever the form. And I think it's because there is a very direct relationship between the body and the voice and the music and what is being said. It's completely connected.
What do you mean? That's really interesting.
Well, when I sing, and especially in Indian music, we don't write. We don't have a score. So you hear what your teacher is teaching you, and then you sing. And then after many years, you're actually singing in that style, but in your own way. But it takes years to do that. For me, it's singing is kind of it's embodied in a way that maybe playing an instrument does not feel to me.
It's like for you, it's almost directly from the teacher to the student into the student's body. And sure, somebody who plays an instrument might have a different experience, but I already hear you going like, well, this is my experience, and being quite okay with sharing that.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I think this is all we really know, and this is all we can really share. To be able to share oneself and one's journey, which is also one's experience. And I think that one does in all ways, whether it's like speaking or writing or singing or whatever, eventually it is a sharing of the self. And I think that, of course, all artists do. Artists who are very deeply connected with themselves and their art, they will do that.
That can be challenging. That can be really vulnerable to share off yourself. A lot of people that I work with and also myself, we can get imposter syndrome or, kind of feel pretty shy about, and maybe hold on to the manuscripts for years instead of just sharing it?
I think, you just spoke about the terror of letting go of a manuscript or getting onto that stage and actually performing. I don't think that ever goes away. I mean, I hang on to manuscripts and I keep looking at them, and I think I don't think I can do very much more with this, but I'm not sure it's ready for, I don't know if anybody else will hear what I'm trying to say. And every time I have a performance, I think, why don't I instead become a mountain climber or something? I'm sure that's simpler than getting
Really?
onto a stage in front of a lot of people and making a
Oh,
complete ass of myself.
yeah. But, you are published. You are not only a writer, but also an editor. And also you've performed countless important venues and events and with people, and even for spiritual gatherings, right? The way you perform is at such a high level. So I'm just trying to say, I myself have been blessed by hearing, what ripples from you right into my heart. It's healing, it's beautiful, it's grace. So you actually get jitters, and yet it comes out as this, heavenly thing, is this really divine and beautiful thing.
Okay, so I think what I realized at some point was that I need to do this and I like it. I love it. I love music. I actually love performing. Once I've actually started and I've got over that initial terror, then you're there and you're just flowing along, and I'm not doing anything. It's the music, and it may be good and it may not be good, and somebody may judge it this way or somebody may judge it that way. But that's not my business. My business is that someone has asked me to come and sing. And I'm very fortunate that I get to do what I really like and I get to share it with people. And I think the same with writing. I always say in some ways you don't have options with a concert. If you have a date fixed for a concert, then you have to show up and you have to sing. You can't say, I need to work a little more on that. Yes, and you say, I'm going to
Right.
do the best I can. At this point, I know it's not perfect, but it's the best that I can do, and I will do it with the greatest honesty and in the full knowledge that it's not perfect and it's never going to be perfect, and yet for this moment, because I am present and I do it with love, and because I want anything out of it except just the joy of singing and of sharing, then it's okay. I'm not being careless. I accept that I'm in the process of becoming. I'm in the process of growing. That this is just one
Wow.
moment in the process of growing. This is one moment in the practice, actually. And
Oh,
it's a
wow.
kind of practice. It's a little more difficult with something you write because you can always hang on to it and say, no, I want to do one last edit. Or, it's not good enough. It's always very helpful if you're given a deadline.
I
So,
love that. Yeah,
yeah.
it's so practical. You're right. I love that. Like the deadline, force yourself on stage, force yourself to give it to the editor. I love what you said about do your best to share the truth. What did you mean by that?
I think at a very deep level, everything that we do with great attention and great love and mindfulness, anything that we do like that, even if it's something very simple like cooking a meal, I think when we do it with that attitude, that being in that space, then this becomes deeply healing for oneself and for anyone around us. And even those who are not around us, I think writing too. But again, you have to very consciously remember that with music, it really is a Tonglen meditation. You really are breathing out comfort and beauty, or at least a sense of beauty, an understanding of beauty. You're breathing out joy, healing, really. This is exactly what we do in a Tonglen meditation. Because we sing on the out breath. This is what I tell people who come to learn a little music or something. I said, the first thing, it doesn't matter if you make a mistake. You shouldn't be careless. You should work hard, all of that. And then from there, from that place of dedication and complete focus, complete mindfulness, complete dedication and love, then do this as a Tonglen practice. Because inadequacies that are always they're always present. Nobody is some heavenly angel. This is not like that. We are human. We make mistakes. The voice cracks. Yeah,
Right.
it will happen.
Right.
But
Beautiful.
it's the attitude. It's what you put into it, and it's the heart that you put in,
Mm.
and that is sufficient. Then I have realized that if somebody says something negative or whatever, yeah, of course it sort of rocks you a little for a moment. It shakes you. But it's also important because it teaches you to say, yeah, that may be true, but I don't stop doing this because of that.
Mm.
Because this is the
Right.
only way I know how to heal myself and the world. This is the only way I know how to be fully present in the world.
And I feel like you've given me and everyone listening a really good reason to overcome our fear and to just look at it as, the price of this fear really is to learn love. And I think if I had the motivation, the intention that whatever we're sharing is out of love, it does give it so much more power. It gives it so much more energy. And I think that helps you to overcome the fear that, we might have put in front of ourselves somehow. Everything that you shared so far has been, I literally am like tearing talking to you about why you chose gender studies, because that's what you chose to do, right?
As women growing up, we see it around us, we see that things are not equal. We internalize a lot of it for a very long time, and then suddenly you see that, no, this is ridiculous. Also, of course, I was a young woman at the time of all that in the 70s when, there was this huge ferment.
Mm.
And there were a lot of very strong women in my life, my mother herself. And my mother's aunt is an extraordinary woman.
And your singing teacher.
My singing teacher, so many people. So I found myself with a group of friends, mainly women, but also some men, who were very deeply aware that the inequalities within society need to be addressed. I mean, one is gender inequality, but there are other kinds also, I mean, we know that.
Right.
And then that normalization of certain things, this is the way it is, that hierarchies, class, caste, whatever,
Right.
that, that heteronormative, that this is it, and everything else is odd or whatever. We are growing up. I was growing up I was coming to emotional adulthood. Let me say, I was grown up. I had finished college. I was working, but a kind of emotional adulthood and a spiritual adulthood. A very, very important point in the history of the world when women were protesting in many different ways, and also recognizing that women's freedom and women's equality cannot be separated from other kinds of the equality of other groups of people.
Right.
Whether this is race or caste or class or the way you see your sexual preferences or whatever, that we have to be looking at all these things. So I think I came of age at a very important time in the history of the world and in the history of India. All times are important, actually, Zoe. My mother would say that she came of age at a very important time because there was the anti-colonial struggle. And
Right, as well.
the whole of the Gandhian movement, which was not just for political independence, but for also social and economic equality.
Right.
So, and
We're
she grew up
always
with,
fighting something.
of course, and so for this generation, there are other things, And I remember when my daughter was quite young, she once said to me, "Why do you always go on saying, but for women? It's not a problem." So I said, yeah, it's not a problem because your mother and your grandmother and your mother's aunt, your grandmother's aunt. So 3 generations of women have struggled for a better world.
Right.
And
absolutely.
But of course she understands it now. This was when she was very little. She understands it and she deals with the world with her courage and her strength.
Yes, absolutely.
And her situations for her are different because the world has changed.
Yes. And the world has changed, like you said, because of this generations upon generations of
but also there's huge
adding to each other's efforts.
What is it called?
The regression.
Yeah. Everything is, we are seeing that that coming back at us again, and it's frightening. But we have to hold to the truth. We have to hold to our courage, and we have to say that we did not struggle in vain. We did not walk those long
Yeah.
walks. We did not sing those songs. We did not fight those fights
Right.
in vain.
Yes. Was there a lot
In,
of protesting and you were
in
doing a lot
my
of
time,
writing
yes,
and
absolutely.
mm,
Absolutely.
mm,
It was the age of protest.
right. Wow. I would like to have seen you in that.
So, traditionally in India, especially when I was young, it was still very unusual for people, anybody, and especially women who were not born into families that were professional musicians to actually learn music seriously and then perform. And
Really?
frankly, I did not even think of performance as a possibility. I just wanted to be with music. I wanted to learn it. I wanted to sing, and I never thought I would perform.
How old were you?
I started learning when I was about 7, I think 6 or 7.
Wow.
But I always loved music and dance actually. And
Mm.
my mother also liked music very much. She had a lovely voice and she had learned a little. But again, as I say, it was completely, it was just not part of the, what one could imagine
Mm.
that a woman would become a professional singer. There were professional singers for that.
I
There were
see.
families of professional singers.
So
And
it's almost a little bit like the caste system, or there are certain
kind
systems
of,
that
but not
kept people
quite.
in
Yeah, not
place.
quite. Because
Yeah.
they also have different groups and, there's a lot of, uh,
Yeah.
what is it?
Right. A lot of hierarchies and I guess
Hierarchies there also.
gatekeeping.
And also interestingly, women who performed music were not considered very fit for very polite society. They were not considered respectable. They were courtesans. So for a
So
woman
men
to,
were classical musicians and men were
yeah, and the
celebrated.
women sang love songs. And of course, I wanted to learn the love songs. So
Mm.
I don't know whether this is some past life connection that I have, or or it was just very early asking of feminist questions.
Mm.
Um, uh, but I loved this music because it was very emotional. It was very beautiful. It was about love, and it was what we call nakra, slightly mannered. So
Mm.
I really loved it. Of course, there was no way anybody would teach me this. I'm grateful that I was permitted to learn and encouraged. When I said I
Mhm.
wanted to learn, my mother had a teacher come to teach me, and I learned music and I learned dance. But these were the sort of what are called the classical forms, what the men
Mm.
sang. And that was
Mm.
all very well, but I liked the ones that the women sang. But
Mm.
it would be many, many years before I could find a teacher who would teach me that. I
Mm.
never let go of it. I held on to it. That
Wow.
one day I will learn this, even if I just learn one song, one piece. And I think as I grew, I began to also ask, why is this? Why is this a problem? That love songs should be problematic, should be, not considered respectable. And that women who sing and who talk about love through the music should not be respectable. And for you to be respectable, in an earlier time, and certainly even in my time, you had to keep your head down and not speak very much and not have too many opinions and not do
Mm.
crazy things.
Mm.
So,
Crazy things such as
whatever, going your own way, walking your own path, not listening
right.
to, wearing what you wanted to wear.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah, singing loudly in the street or something.
Right. Doing something for pleasure for yourself.
What? No, no, also different. I mean, it's very, very complex. But women were kind of separated into these two kinds of women, respectable
Mm.
married women
Mm.
and not respectable, charming women who sang love songs and whom men went to visit and had affairs with, but never married.
Mm.
As I grew older, I began to also feel that there was something very wrong here. I mean, we didn't have the words feminism and patriarchy and things then, but
Mm.
it seemed to me that it was something very, very wrongful that was being done, which is that women were not allowed to be total beings.
Mm.
If you're going to be respectable and you're going to be able to have a home and have children who are legitimate children and, have a family and things like that, then you can't be saying what you want to say. You can't be singing. You can't
Mm-hmm.
be,
Very
you can't
strange.
live your own life in a way.
Right.
And if you want to perform and if you want to um, explore and live the erotic and the romantic, and
Mm-hmm.
not be afraid of that and not feel that you have to shut up about it. And if you are like that, then you can't be a respectable woman. And this is wrong. This is splitting the totality of who one is. And saying you have to be either one or the other, and it's not right. It's not fair because you're not allowed the fullness of experiencing life.
And you're not allowed to experience life because it's more convenient, like you said, for the
some
patriarchy.
People, and those people are men generously.
Wow. Yeah.
So these were the questions, and then I found a teacher who was wonderful, and I did learn Thumri, and I began to also research this whole question of who were the women who sang Thumri and what was their life about. But increasingly, I became interested in the form itself as carrying meanings and carrying a whole very feminist statement. Actually, it becomes very multivalent.
That's really actually fascinating how your study of the form kind of changed your perspective or gave you some insight.
I think I think things go together. You start doing things with the form that very consciously. Okay, that's why I'm doing this, or that's why this is part of the technique.
Like the wistfulness or like the sensuality? Is that part of the
I
form?
think let me say one of the most simple things that when I was growing up, and if at all one was permitted to sing a Thumri or listen to a Thumri, people would always say that, these lyrics sound romantic, but they're actually spiritual. And that seemed not a very good way of looking at things, because why do I want to make a hierarchy? As a human being who has a body and lives on this earth and has to live happily and enjoy my food and enjoy all the things all the
earthly things,
all the physicality of life. Why should I say this is only spiritual? I mean, why can't I say that my spiritual experiences are very, very embodied? Why can I not say that? Why do I have to create a hierarchy? That the ordinary is actually only a metaphor for the spiritual. Why can't the spiritual be a metaphor for the ordinary?
I love it.
And why can't I say that these are just passing back and they are speaking to each other? And I can't be truly spiritual until I'm truly grounded also on this earth and in this body. And I can't be truly grounded in my body and in this world unless I also walk a spiritual path. Because otherwise it becomes lopsided.
Right. So actually, like you said, it's really quite full circle. It seems like to own your physicality, to own your earthy body, your female earthy body. Yeah. And to be able to celebrate its earthiness is spiritual. Yeah. I love all that.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow.
And neither is better than the other.
I remember you used to talk about like an earthen pot. Can you tell us that story?
Well, this is a verse of the poet Kabir. It is a man, and he was a weaver. And as what we are told about him is that he could not read or write because, as you know, Zoe, India has always been very hierarchical. Also a problem. And learning has always been in the hands of some people, men,
right.
Of the supposedly upper groups, and artisans, weavers are not considered worthy to be able to learn to read and write. He has this very lovely poem where he says, in this little earthen pot, mud pot, this little pot, gut, all the gardens and forests, every tree, every flower that ever was and is, everything is contained in this one little pot. And remember, the pot is empty. The whole point of a pot is it has to be empty.
Right.
Yeah. So it contains all this. And within this pot also is the one who makes those gardens grow. And the one, it contains all the precious gems. And it contains the one who recognizes these, who can parakna, who can recognize their worth. The jeweler, actually. In this is the 9 million stars. 9 million means infinite. And the 7 seas, and that also means the endlessness. So everything is contained in this tiny little pot. And in this is the silence of the universe. The silence before anything, yeah? And in this is the bubbling fountain of life. And in this is my guru. I don't need another guru. Everything is here. And when this ghat, the earthen pot, actually, even in other songs and things, is a way in which we speak of the body. Because it's fragile. It will finish. It won't last. And also there is a recognition of the emptiness of the body, which is not just the physical body, but the self body. This thing
like the
that
identity
becomes
self.
embodied. Yes, this thing that becomes embodied, which takes embodiment, because we need that experience. We need to struggle a bit. We need to eat. We need to fall in love. We need to be hurt. We need to cook. We need to do all these things,
Right.
And it's this fragile little pot. The whole point of it is that it has to be empty so that it can hold something.
Mm-hmm.
And it holds everything. It holds all the stars, all the oceans, all the plants. And it also holds the guru, the one who understands, the one who can see all this. This is who we are. And this is not to say I'm wonderful or something like that. It's actually to see that I am not separate from anything else. It's not just that I am like you or I am like that tree, but that my being, physical and social and spiritual being, is yours also. I mean, if you are hurt,
like
I
we're
am
all made
hurt.
of the same stuff almost,
We're
right? Like
made
we're
of the
not made
same
from
stuff, and
nothing.
also we are one.
Yeah.
I am also star. I'm also the substance of star. I'm also the substance of
Wow.
whale.
How
I mean, if
beautiful.
something should happen to a whale, it happens to me also. And I think
Yes.
we're seeing that, I mean, we mess up the earth, and we're seeing what's happening.
Totally.
So his poetry is composed, and the wonderful thing is that the communities that sing his poetry continue to compose new poems and new songs that they sing, and they say it's composed by him, by Kabir.
Wow.
And I think this is quite lovely, because it's saying, what nonsense is all this thing about copyright? We are human. We, nothing that we say or do or anything is absolutely full born from us without any influence of anything else. We are always influenced, whatever you say.
Right. And that takes it into such a spiritual sense of, like you said, being a channel, right, for what comes through you. How do you bring together in your own life, this external world, right, that we're talking about, where we do see the chaos being brought on by humanity making terrible decisions. And at the same time, you've held on to grace, to spirituality, to knowing that, despite our humanness, that, there is something more. How do you live with these,
Well,
dichotomies or whatever that's called?
Well, I fall down about 100 times a day. And I think this is it, Zoe. If we understood everything all the time, and if we're in that space of peace, then I don't know, we'd be somebody else. And I always like to tell this story. I once saw a Bhutto dancer in Delhi. He was dancing, he was doing his movements and contortions, and his face was gone. There was a lot of agony. And then somebody at the end of the performance, there was a discussion, and someone asked him, "Don't you do any dances about uniting with God?" So he thought a bit. He looked at this man, and you could see him thinking, if I were united with God, why would I dance? That we dance, we live our life, we do these things because we are learning. We are not, and it does not mean that we have to hit ourselves and say that we are not perfect. Of course, we're not perfect. Nobody's perfect, but that imperfection is perfect. For this moment, it's perfect.
Right, it's part
Which
of
is
that
perfect when you
struggle.
accept it and do not make it a very bad issue for yourself and the rest of the world. And it's going to happen. We're all going to get stressed. I mean, I get stressed 100 times a day. I panic. I'm hurt. I get upset, and all these things happen. And then, you take a deep breath. And I mean, my mother was always very fond of quoting the Dalai Lama, and I think I was present. I was present at that teaching, where someone at the end asked His Holiness, "Don't you ever get angry?" And bless him, he said, "Of course I do. But then when I do get angry, I think I step back and I say that I am only a simple Buddhist monk. What do I have to do with this emotion? I'm not a simple Buddhist monk. I'm far from that. But I think that's a very good way of dealing with what we might like to call negative emotions. That is, yes, you feel them coming up, and sometimes they do take hold of you and make a bit of a mess for yourself and somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
But then you step back and you say, but what does this emotion have to do with me? I am just a human being trying to understand something, trying to live my life well. This has no place in my life. And if it has, then it has arisen to teach me to look at it without panic and to say, okay, you are not, I don't need to be ruled by you. I can step away. I think it's from the Theravadian tradition. It's a very beautiful verse which says that, we know that on the surface of the ocean there are waves, and sometimes those waves are quite violent. You can have tsunamis and all kinds of storms at sea and everything like that. So there is all this on the surface, but in the ocean's midmost depth, the deepest part of the ocean, the verse says, no wave is born and all is still. So let the monk be still, be motionless. I'm very far from this. But it's a good reminder, It's a very good reminder that all this is on the surface of my life. All this excitement, also great joy, getting excited, being very joyful, feeling very pleased because someone said something nice. It's all on the surface, these emotions.
Right.
Equally, getting angry, feeling hurt, feeling frightened, feeling panicked, feeling stressed out, whatever, they are not vanishing. They will be there.
It's part of the
I also
experience.
know that at the very bottom of the ocean, there is nothing. It's still. This is the play on top. And it's good because if you have a practice like music, then you can convert that into the music practice.
Right. There's different places to channel it.
Say that this is the world that we inhabit as human beings. That we are sad one moment, then we're happy, then we are proud and arrogant, and then something else happens. But at the end, and this is also part of the pedagogy of music, that whatever the experience of the song, whatever emotional experience of the song, what it should actually awaken in yourself and in anybody who listens, in the atmosphere, is shanti, is complete peace, complete equilibrium. Anand, actually. Anand, the pure bliss.
Anand.
How,
Anand, the pure bliss.
So that even anger is, it's a play, it's like watching a film. And you say, what a beautifully made film.
Right, exactly.
But it's not, those characters go away after that. The screen empties, then there's only a blank screen.
Like what you have said about Leela, everything that you're saying so far is really painting this picture and immersing me in this experience. And I think people listening will also get this, because I think what you're painting is that when we create and are mirrors for each other about our so-called negative emotions, big waves, experiences, positive emotions, right? All of our extremes, we can see each other in our humanness and see both the beauty, the tragedy, the hilarity, right? All of it. And then at the same time, because you have a practice of letting yourself see, then you get back to that place of, I'm at the bottom of the ocean, actually, even though on top, right, there's all of this, performance, there's all of this drama. I love that. I mean, that's amazing. Being human, yes, being upset 100 times a day, but being able to have all these ways that you have discovered, that you've been taught, that you now teach to help people to get to that shanti, that anand, that peace of actually we are. Wow, that's so beautiful. Vidya, I met you at a time when, well, actually, I met you so many times. I realize now. I met you at a time when I was a little yogi, trying to figure out her way. But also, I met you at a time when COVID was happening. And with the pandemic, we were all trapped in our homes. And somehow you and I found our way to Shana Paul's very beautiful Canadian poet and writers online writing class. And Shauna, being Shauna, was just like, everybody, wherever you are in the world, just join us. And we shared all of these writings and then, as prompts to dive into our own worlds and share it with each other. That's where I really got to know you. I feel like that's where I really got to know the nuances, the beauty, just some of it. What I'm trying to say with that is that we had to navigate something really hard. And I learned a lot about, even for you, how the emotional world, right, was one where you had to learn how to swim, because you also were impacted by depression and experiences like that. I wonder if it's okay for you to share a little bit about your experience of depression, because that might help.
I have a little bit tendency to depression. It's not so terrible that I can't function. I mean, I may need to go off and sit and cry somewhere for a while. But I know I will say that yes, and I continue to experience it. I don't know whether it is exacerbated by situations. I mean, I live alone. And that's not very easy in India, to be alone, and especially to be older and alone. Also, I think when you're swimming against the tide all the time, very often you don't have too many friends. So it is difficult. And I mean, I had a bit of a bad moment yesterday. And I think when I was young, it was not sort of thought of as something that needed help. You just had to snap out of it and behave yourself. Fortunately, it's not very bad. I function. I mean, I get to work and things, but I can see that I'm not my usual self. I'm not my bright and sparkly self.
Right. And there's something to be said for a high functioning depression as well, right? Or anxiety. I have this as well.
Both.
And
I have a lot of anxiety also, and I still experience it. But but I tell myself that I've dealt with it in the past. It's past. It has moved on, and it will move on this time also. I need to do something that will make me feel good, and that can range from making myself a nice soup to watching some comedy kind of thing on television. Or reading something or singing and saying, I don't care if it sounds bad, because when you're not feeling very well in your body and mind, then your breathing is affected, and that affects the singing. And but the energy of music also carries you, and it takes that away. And of course, the other thing is physical activity. I find that very helpful.
Right.
So do some qigong, go to the gym, take a walk. Not easy in India to take a walk in most cities because there's no pavement.
Yes, hard to imagine.
There are a few parks, but there are gyms.
Right.
So
and you've also created community.
I think in India, still, I think there are not very many older women, especially, who are running around doing crazy things. I have a little bit difficulty also with language, because I don't know very well the language that's spoken in this part of India. I can understand and I can speak, but I can't discuss metaphysics or feminism or something. It's difficult. But I feel that one thing is to stay hopeful and to stay open. And also, we are blessed. I mean, the COVID pandemic was, yes, it was a terrible time, but it also stopped us in our tracks and made us think. And I always say one of the most important teachings, which of course nobody has learned, is that life is uncertain. It's always been uncertain. It was not COVID that made it uncertain. It's always been uncertain. COVID just rubbed our noses in it a bit and said, okay, just get it into your head, just stop pretending that you can control things. You can't.
Yeah. So I mean, that's complicated, like you said.
I mean, there were some terrible things happened, but I won't go into that now. I think the other thing was that many people recognized the importance of community. Many people reached out to each other, in whatever way, just chats on phone or on Zoom, communities, singing together, having dinner together. And I think that this is also actually encouraging us to understand the importance of community. That as human beings, and we must live in community not just with other human beings, but with every sentient and non-sentient being.
Yes.
And I think that was a great teaching of the pandemic. I mean, it brought it home to us very beautifully and very
Right. It
powerfully.
was a leveler of
Yeah.
sorts. Yeah.
And then
you talked about how you had different ways of even dealing with how high functioning depression, a lot of people tend to dismiss it. Like, well, you're performing, you're doing great. Like, what's there to complain about? But you developed an ability to be compassionate to the nuances of what's happening within yourself, right? For what it is. And we're constantly reminded together that, like what you're saying, nobody's perfect. Life itself is not perfect. It might be the lie that we tell ourselves that life is supposed to be perfect, that you and I are supposed to be perfect. That's causing a lot of this extra pain as well. I'm really curious. You were talking to me the other day about aging and how that's something you're passionately curious and digesting and chewing on now. Can you tell me a bit about what that means to you in the context of having been somebody who's struggled against the tides to own who you are, to stand up for, being a woman, to stand up for, I think, even spirituality, right? To be in its more pure form. Can you tell me how aging plays into all of that now?
I think that's this thing of being an old person. I'm going to say that, an old woman, actually. I am old.
Right. The word is just so barbed, right?
Sure. I want to reclaim it. I want to say there is nothing wrong. If I say I'm a young woman, nobody feels there's anything problematic about it. So if I say I'm old now, it should not. It is a fact. I'm not 25. I'm not even 55.
And it's one of the stages of life. Yeah. And also it can be just as beautiful.
It is very beautiful. Also, I think that there is a way in which there are markers of aging, like your hair becomes gray, your skin is not what it was when you were young, your energies are not what they were when they were young.
I feel all that already.
All of this is there. Voice has changed. That I'm also old. So there's that it has to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
So there are these things that remind you always that, you are not young. There is so much that you can physically do. My vocal range has shrunk. Now, for Western musicians, it means the end of a career. You can't, because the songs are set like that. We adjust it. We take it a half note lower. We don't sing too high. We do that, and it's all right. And the music is about what you have to give, rather than how high you can go or whatever. I think inside of yourself, I don't feel old. I feel very young. I feel that my life is just beginning. I'm still learning. I'm still enthusiastic. Yeah, I mean, there are some things I recognize that, if I've had a long day, I need to say, okay, now I need to rest. I just need to be quiet. I need to say, okay, now I want some quiet me time. And I may read. I may sit and eat some fruit and watch something funny on television.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, or say, that this I can't do anymore. This is not possible for me. But there's a lot that is still possible. And I will do that. And I will recognize that there is a body which is old, but there is a self which actually doesn't age, It grows mature. It grows hopefully wiser. It grows in something. It grows. That doesn't mean that that doesn't mean that now you are useless. And I don't care either if somebody doesn't want to spend time. If, many people feel, okay, this is an old person or something like that. That's all right too. I probably won't have very much to say to them anyway, or listen to them. So that's okay. Right. But to recognize that you have, you will find friends, and these may be of any age, because the being, the soul, if you like, it has no age.
Wow.
You can connect with a very young person. I mean, you are much younger than I am, Zoe.
Yes, and I don't feel that when I'm with you.
I don't think we feel that there's a hierarchy.
No.
I mean, we are friends. You may need to help me, if we have to walk uphill or something, you might need to help me a bit.
Well, more with technology, but on the other hand,
and with technology, definitely. But that, I think, would have happened when I was young also, because my brain is not really that kind of. I don't do very well with technology, and that's all right.
Yeah, and I get to, really be with a friend who is so much wiser, right? And still so fun, and who has navigated many things that I want to learn how to navigate, and who has developed her art in a way that I respect, so much. So yeah,
Well,
age,
it's
like
the
you
same.
said.
I feel the same. I feel the
Oh,
same. I feel I'm learning always from you and from many of my younger friends.
oh.
We are always learning, Zoe. I mean,
Mhm.
to be a student or to be a teacher, there is no age for that.
Much
You
better to
know,
always be learning than to suddenly morph into
no,
only
and also to
thinking you know
share.
everything.
And
Yes.
to share, that, and it's not as if, I know this. I don't. I mean, there is this experience that I had, and this is what I thought at the time, or this is what I
Mhm.
felt, and this is what I
Mm.
told myself, whether that is teaching or it's just sharing, It is sharing because
Right.
in that process, I learn also so much.
Wow. I really love this approach. I really love it because I think it's so liberating. It's so liberating to say what you just said, which is that's what I knew at the time. That was my experience at the time. And I'm just sharing. So I don't have to try to be more of an expert or more, whatever it is that people do to impress other people. Yeah, you have given me in this conversation so many ways to come back to what's truthful and meaningful and beautiful. Yeah, I am so grateful. I want to talk again and I want to talk more because
No,
I'm very lucky to get to tap you this way. Is there anything else that you might want the world to know about, navigating life's journey as a woman, circumstances that are challenging?
I don't know. I think I've just been very fortunate because I've had very wonderful people also coming into my life, wonderful experiences, wonderful moments. Um, I what all I would say is that just be open to the moment, the experience, and recognize that everything does pass. I mean, and then when something is painful or hurtful, or you're sad about something, then recognize that if we never had occasion to sort of say, "Oh my God, I stubbed my toe and that hurts," my emotional toe, if you like, then maybe we wouldn't grow, no?
Mm.
And, I think there's a Zen saying like, first trees are trees and mountains are mountains. And then trees are not trees and mountains are not mountains. And then again, trees are trees and mountains are not mountains. But we have to make that journey. We've
Mm.
come back to the isness of everything. But we had to make the journey first, no? We had to go through confusions, we had to go through naming, we had to go through individuation, I think is what psychologists call it, yes. We have
Mhm.
to separate from, we have to say, this is
Mhm.
me and that is my mother, this is me and that is a dog, this is me and that is a tree, this is self and
Right.
that
This
is
is me
other.
and that's society. This is me and that's
Yeah,
patriarchy. That's, sexual
whatever. And then,
discrimination,
and
whatever.
then also recognize that I hold it also within myself and I am that and that is me. So, if patriarchy is in a certain way, I have a deep responsibility to dissolve it within myself first.
Right. So the struggle is real, but they're all opportunities for growth. And in fact, it might have been designed, or, you're a lot happier if you can see it that way.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean that from then on you're never going to feel unhappy. Of course, you will feel unhappy. I mean, I don't know who these people are who don't feel unhappy and who don't feel depressed and who don't get
Yeah, I
angry.
don't know.
I am not one of them.
Me neither. I feel like, corpses maybe. Yeah. But then they're not very happy either.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Vidya, thank you so much. That was a lot of fun and very zen, and my heart just feels full in a very peaceful way. Yeah. Thank you for lighting my fire and also teaching me that there's a lot more beyond, drama. Yeah. Is there anything you'd like to say to people listening before we wrap it up and out?
I think all I want to say is to thank you, Zoe, for many years of friendship and
No,
sharing
thank you too.
and vulnerability, the courage to be vulnerable and share with each other. So thank you for
Mhm.
that. Thank you for inviting me here. And thank you to all those people whom I don't know or maybe know also. who may be listening, and by listening are part of this conversation, are actually in this conversation with us. And, I spoke a minute ago about it was the age of protest. I think for us now, it is the age of understanding that we work together. We are a community. We are always a community, even when we don't see each other, even when we don't know each other.
Right.
But when we work towards something, when we think of something, when we hold something important, that alone makes us a community. That alone says we walk together. And I think I draw a lot of strength from this.
Me too. Me too.
All of you, and definitely you, Zoe.
Thank you, Vidya. That's
In
so
the spirit
beautiful.
of our lovely animals, Coco and Sophie.
Yes, they're with us as well. Yes, Sophie and Coco, I've got to put their pictures up. Yeah. Thank you so much, Vidya. Thank you, everybody, for listening and joining us. What a blessing, really. Yeah, truly ending this with a lot of love here. We're all community, and we're all going to work on this and walk forward together. Bye. Take care.
Bye. Lots of love.
Okay. Lots of love. Okay, friends. I don't know if you feel like I do right now, but after that conversation with Vidya, I am just zen like still water. I am moved. I feel passionate. I feel able. I feel that I too walk in the footsteps of women and of people who are feminists, who believe in a better world. I hope you got that as well. And Vidya does not have social media, but you can go watch her videos on YouTube, listen to her sing. She's on Spotify as well. And if you'd like to chat with me, connect with me, share your comments, go ahead, pop them in all those places where you can pop comments on Instagram and YouTube and Spotify and all the other platforms for podcasts. So I feel really blessed to have been able to share this podcast with you so far, to be able to find time between all the other things going on in my life to make this. I should be asking you to follow and subscribe and share, because that would actually really help me to be able to make more of these. I hope you've been enjoying the time that we're spending together. I hope it helps you to feel like you're totally not alone, that you're totally normal navigating this world that's a little bit abnormal right now. And I am sending you off with lots of love, hugs. Until the next time. Bye. I'm Zoe Ho, your somatic therapist, and this has been We All Got Problems. आगाम पंथ एक सुर का आगाम पंथ आगाम पंथ आगाम पंथ हाय आगाम पंथ